Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex, and this is the week ahead segment where I do some Wyckoff TA on all the major markets. We're going to look at Bitcoin, gold, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. If that's what you're into, stick around. All right, so what you're looking at here is a intraday 3-minute chart of the S&P 500 index. And as you can see, I wanted to outline this end of day action. We were actually selling off pretty good here end of day, and then we had this last minute candle, widespread candle, and with large volume. And I want us to take a look at this volume. This is the largest volume in this entire upwave from the climax of the downwave at the beginning of August. So that's a pretty interesting way to end a Monday with a lot of volume coming in to a very green bar. So that could be interpreted two ways, that there's a lot of buying demand there, but it can also be interpreted as, okay, we're at an upwave, right? And it's just starting to turn down. So, there's a lot of sellers there as well. So just wanted to start there. Pretty interesting. What I like to do is I like to look at the daily chart. And I've got a couple lines on my chart. I have the quarterly moving average here. I have the yearly moving average here. And then I have the 16 period or the quarterly of the quarterly moving average here. And I like to use those moving averages because they make the most sense to me. And they seem to work pretty well. So a couple interesting things. I also have this white line here, which is an anchored VWAP from the Fed meeting. So 2 days before we got that employment report, I put an anchored VWAP there just to see where the majority of the volume is. And as you can see here, we're rallying, right? This is in a nice upwave off of this sell-off when we undercut the 16 period moving average. And we, went back into this little range here. And, we're just been monitoring this upwave. I mean, we made a video last week saying that, this candle was very strong because there was low volume and it got basically all the move back. And, typically after a candle like that, you should see a rally, but we actually saw a red day. So that was our first inclination that the strength from this candle is not having any follow through and people were going to sell into low volume rallies, and we're seeing it every time. Low volume rally, selling, low volume rally, selling. But the buyers came in end of day because that was a pretty deep red day, and then low volume rally, selling. So that seems to be the pattern today. I mean, is going to be the tell. Going into tomorrow, where we had low volume selling today. So they could have pushed the price. They tried to push it end of day, as you saw at the very beginning of the video. So we'll see. I mean, we're back up into these new highs, into this kind of, control candle here. But, they're willing to push it down. So interesting to note. I mean, later on in the video, I'll show you guys the market monitor. As maybe if you guys have seen some of my other videos where the internals is a very bifurcated market, kind of a toppy market. So we're watching for any kind of weakness. And when you see a sell-off end of day, like we did today, that's a sign of weakness, right? So, that's all I kind of see from the S&P 500, where we've been in this rally. It's a weak rally because every time we had a green day, we're having a red day right after. So, gonna monitor that. So moving onwards to the market monitor, I wanted to show you guys the internals before we keep moving on. All right, so for those of you who are new to the channel, the market monitor is essentially a collection of data I've taken over time. I track all the stocks, whether they're in uptrends, downtrends, ending at the high of the day or the low of the day. And then I do some O'Neill cycle analysis to get the green, red, orange, and yellow cycles. And currently we are in a green cycle, day 2, and we've moved about 0.52%. An average green cycle goes about 12.6 days. And it moves about 3.78%. And with today's action, we have one distribution count, and that's a significant event because it's the first time we've gone into a new green cycle and had, a distribution day within the first 3 days. And if we get 2 or more distribution days within the first 3 days after going into a green cycle, that, makes a green cycle fail about 80% of the time. So interesting to note there. Just to show you guys some stage analysis, we are, seeing a lot of, bifurcated action here, where if you guys see here the 16 average of my stage analysis, the stage 4 and the stage 3 are above average, and the stage 2 and the stage 1 are below average. So that shows you that even though we're in an upward trend, the breadth underneath is in a downward trend on a short-term basis. So that's something that you see when an upwave is about to fail. You want to, if we were to continue this upwave and have it continue higher, we'd want to see the breadth confirming the move. But right now we're seeing the breadth go negative when the cycle is positive. So interesting there. All right, so moving onwards to some more major markets. Let's go check out Bitcoin. And if you guys have made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. We're slowly growing this channel, and we appreciate every single one of you. And if you guys want to show your appreciation, hey, smash that like button, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Cheers. All right, so what you're looking at here is ticker symbol IBIT. This is the iShares Bitcoin Trust. What I said in some previous videos was like this candle right here is pretty much the point of control candle that Bitcoin needs to stay above to stay bullish. And last week we had a test here on heavy volume, right? And then it gapped up. It failed at the anchored VWAP from the Fed day, and then we had this continuation. Now, if this was going to turn bearish, this thing would have had to be a nasty candle, but we had this little wick right here on low volume. And so that was a weak, from this kind of a candle to this kind of a candle, the market could have taken it down, but they didn't. And then because they didn't, and then there was this little buying wick right after, boom, we got this nice move back up to the high end of the range. And of course, like if we move this thing over, it's stopping here at the high end of the range. So that makes a lot of sense. This is like kind of a low volume day reversal. So, this is a pretty bearish candle. So we'd like to see it, maybe go sideways a couple more days and build up a little bit more energy, but it's still bullish. It's at the high end of the range. It got back up there right after this little spring. Okay. In Wyckoff terms, when you undercut a range and it fails, it's called a spring. So it should move up to the high end of the range very quickly, which it did. And now we're here. So the next thing I would expect is a backup action where we'd go sideways at the high end of the range before a new breakout. So, if it goes sideways for the next, 2 days or so, or this week, and like let this moving average catch up, right? So we'd go boom, 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 a couple days. Yeah, what is that? 3 bars. So, next 3 bars are kind of just nothing bars. And then we break out higher on Bitcoin. I know this is really hot. I didn't say it at the very beginning, but maybe that's a little surprise for you guys in the video. Like let's check out Ethereum, because that's pretty hot right now. Ethereum is very hot. It's breaking out. So confirming that, I guess we call it the alt season is here. So just thought I'd mention that Ethereum is breaking out, and it's showing a lot of strength here. Almost, yeah, pretty much new all-time highs from ETH A. So interesting there. Nothing bearish about today's candle. Just a little wick. So it could go sideways from here, or it could gap up into this wick and continue higher. Anytime Ethereum is breaking new highs, we want to see it just keep going higher. So moving onwards to gold. So what I was saying in gold is like we've been in this range for a while here. We had this kind of spring action here, and then we gapped up, and that's what I wanted to see, right? When we were here, I wanted to see it go V, and then boom. So today's action in gold is a little bit more bearish than I would have hoped for to stay bullish, but that's because all this volume came into the high of the range, right? And the last time these guys came in with heavy volume at the high of the range, it was like literally the high of this range, and now they're coming in a little early. So it's showing a little bit of weakness there on the gold ETF. This is the highest volume since the climax, right? And so, and the move right after it is a down move, so that is bearish. So maybe gold just needs to go sideways, or it needs to have a deeper kind of shakeout here, because if this thing's kind of in a perilous or a danger zone here if this thing doesn't get going to the upside, because there's such a huge gap between the quarterly moving average and the yearly moving average. And whenever you see a gap like that, that's that big, unless it keeps going, you could see this thing fail, pretty severely here. But, I mean, underlying, they have been buying the lows, but, you don't like to see these big volume spikes at the highs. Well, that's kind of at the lows, but right here especially. So that's a little, sketchy candle if you're bullish on gold. So, if this thing can find some support here on this anchor VWAP from the Fed meeting, we could see this thing bounce. And if it gets back up to the highs and goes sideways from there, that'd be bullish. Okay. All right. Moving on to the QQQ. So I made a case last week that the QQQ is having a longer term topping pattern because, it's breaking into this channel from the beginning of this bull rally for the last 2.5 years. And it broke out, okay, or broke underneath that trend. And now it's back testing the trend. And we should see it fail here if it was to get pretty bearish. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Double top sort of an action here. So if this thing was to become bearish, we would need to see it, have a really nasty day tomorrow, maybe something like that, to confirm that, because this has all the telltale signs that this thing can reverse. We tested the highs. It failed on low volume, showing lack of demand. So you would expect to see this thing go down like a lot tomorrow. So that's what I would be looking for on QQQ. I mean, we've already seen in terms of the market monitor that this is a bifurcated market. It's there's a lot of weakness under the surface. And then this rally showed a lot of strength here, and we had a lot of buyers buy this dip. So the dip buyers are in. And so it should it had a climactic run because, maybe people are short here and they got trapped or whatever. But it is still above this anchor VWAP, which is kind of the line in the sand for it to stay bullish. So if it doesn't go down, this thing could still have a climactic run. I mean, it's got everything going for it. It's still strong here. But, if we do see that large candle tomorrow or the next day, that would kind of confirm like, okay, we're going to start going down. So, yeah, so that's the QQQ. And that's the week ahead update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Short one today. And I'll see you guys on the Wednesday watch list video. So cheers, everybody. Have a good one.